Joe Budden calls out Ish for grumpy behavior.
You have sat here for the past 3 weeks looking like grumpy stupid in the face.
No, I have not. That's not true.
Stop
reading. Yo, you need to stop reading.
I'm never going to stop reading anything.
All right, well, cool.
It's the job to read things.
All right, cool. You're right.
What I'm saying to you is,
make your own assessment.
Maybe you don't know.
Make your own assessment.
You are grumpier. You think that you've treated unfairly up here.
Now, on the last episode of the Joe Budden podcast, Joe Budden was finally fed up with Ish's antics of being disruptive with his body language and looking dejected and disconnected whenever he's on air. This is after months of Ish shutting down, looking like he hates being a part of the Joe Budden podcast. There's several things this could be. Some of my theories center on compensation, along with disrespect both from the Joe Budden fans, as well as his dislike of the way Joe Budden runs his operation. But why did Joe snap the way he did? Well, first you have to remember that Mark asked a question.
It's not the Ish segment. We're not going to turn this into the Ish segment.
I'm not making it about you.
We all having a conversation.
But when people you're talking, I'll let somebody else.
Why are you such a grump?
Ish got snippy. I believe that is why Joe was turned off by how Ish dealt with Mark and therefore had a visceral reaction. And this was like real authentic Joe. This was not COE. He was genuinely upset at the way Ish was conducting himself when Mark asked him a question. Now, you have to also look at the way this episode was going. They were sharing out about their family dynamics, and Melissa Ford even overstepped, asking Ish when he was gonna marry his girl.
What does she want? Do you even know? Real question.
No, I don't know.
A baby and years together, she's never mentioned it. I'm sorry, sometimes I don't know my boundaries. I'm sorry.
What's in that cup?
And that led to a weird moment, and I think that turned Ish off because it was getting real personal, and I don't think Ish wants to divulge any type of personal stuff on the show, and that's why he snapped and started looking dejected, which led to the Mark back and forth, and then Joe would explode. Ish would later reveal or hint at dealing with deaths in his life and perhaps other family issues, so he did kind of give a reason as to why he's been acting the way he has. I would push back and say that he has been acting this way for a real long time. I wonder if Ish feels properly compensated for the lack of privacy he has nowadays. Now, I've been throwing out a number of what he gets paid, and so many people push back, but I would have evidence to suggest that I'm right, because I think that if Ish felt he was getting properly compensated for what he goes through on the show, he wouldn't act this way. And to be fair to Ish, he has to go to work every day knowing that his boss is intentionally trying to trigger him. I'm 100% certain Ish despises how Joe puts his cast against each other, along with the way he pokes and prods at Ish's family life, mentioning his white significant other. Other points of contention could be how Joe tarnishes Ish and his brand through jokes. One being the unrelenting jokes about Ish's hoodies.
And making jokes, being performative. Then he like, yo, I was like, I don't know, maybe like 150. I said, it's the target price. So he's like, 150? Again, Joe performative. You get what I'm saying? 150, oh, man, you must gonna bring that to your house for me or something like that. So I'm like, what's that you got on? I said, what's the hoodie you had on last week? How much that cost? He said, what was it? I started laughing. Balenciaga, $1,300. I said, they came to your house and bought it to you? This is the bad part. The bad part is Joe's voice is so loud in the industry that it's taken for granted. Like Joe could come out and be like, your album doodle, that shit gonna carry weight.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So when he did that, the next 4 or 5 days, it was forums on Reddit, on Twitter, on all these shit about should I be charging $150 for my hoodies? Was I upset? I mean, once I saw the aftermath of what him saying did, yeah, I was kind of tight.
And a recent episode where Joe called Ish a scammer.
Are you sick of him with that shit is like a scam at this point.
The scam.
You're a podcaster. You've been out the real estate. All right,
I'm not out the game. I'm not out the
you
real
out the
estate.
game.
I'm not though.
You are.
Okay.
You ain't did nothing.
That's what you think.
I'm telling you.
No, you're not telling
You
me
a
nothing.
podcaster, yo. Stop.
You a rapper.
Like, tell them.
Now, we also have to talk about the arrival of Mark Lamont Hill. which complicates the dynamic as well. Sure, Mark is great. He's a professional, but I can't help but think he loves crushing Ish in these debates and using him as a testament to his debate skills. Ish knows that, which is why he no longer wants to engage. Prior to Mark's arrival, Ish only had to deal with one content over everything co host, but now he is dealing with a new breed who prioritize connecting with the Joe Budden audience over his feelings. Now, what I mean by that is Mark Lamont has a bigger play. He has said that he's on the Joe Budden podcast to have a conversation with black people who don't normally watch him.
I walked up to the doors of the JBP, which was already thriving without me. Like, this is the best podcast in the world, and they got access to so many people who I love and care about, specifically black people, specifically younger black people, specifically black men. And so these generations of black men who are watching JBP, and I want to be in conversation with them.
As a result, that is making Ish's feelings be put on the back burner, as they should be. Joe Budden is like an old cartel boss who will burn your whole lineage for the slightest disrespect, whereas Mark is a modern cartel boss who will fund your daughter's college experience, then occasionally threaten you subtly with small requests you can't reject, like mowing his lawn. Both are terrible people. Now, one thing Ish has to confront is that he signed up to be a part of the pod. If he has such an issue, he can always leave. His constant displeasure with the show leads me to think he needs the money Joe provides him, because why would he stick around if that wasn't the case? Doesn't make sense to me how Ish is always talking about his real estate holdings and the type of money he makes. If he doesn't like being on the podcast, why is he still there? He also has other LLCs that he's developed. That's that Ish Media or something like that. You would think that he would launch a podcast or some type of entertainment thing. Many times people tell me, oh, Ish isn't about that. He doesn't want to do that. But why would he start an LLC based around media? Other taxing issues facing Ish that I think we have to address before we wrap up is the toxicity of Joe Budden's craziest fans. The ones that look up his girlfriend, the PPP loans he has taken. Then there's the Joe Budden TV Twitter community who Ish despises. Now, that was something that was interesting in this exchange. When Joe Budden called out Ish, Ish was like, you too busy looking at the community. And Joe was like, that's my job and that's your job. So Ish is not being real with himself. The community talking about him is bothering him. And I think the things that are really bothering him is the concern with his former girlfriends. Because if you look on Lipstick Alley, you will see that some of his old work is on those platforms mentioning certain things about their relationship in the past. Very he said, she said. And there was one time that someone else was going back and forth with, I guess, one of Ish's girlfriends on, or former girlfriends on Lipstick Alley. And it appeared like Ish was arguing with her via a burner. Now, I can't confirm that is the case, but being on communities for some time, I can kind of tell when someone from the show is using a burner to combat narratives on message boards. All members of the show watch this stuff. They watch videos like mine, they watch the Reddits, they watch the Twitter community because they actively block these communities, or they say that they don't watch it, which is always an indication of reverse behavior. That's right. Reverse behavior is the term I'm going to coin for what the Joe Budden podcast members say on air versus what they actually do. But let me know what you think. Do you feel as if Joe Budden is right in calling out Ish? Or is Joe Budden a terrible boss who made Ish show up for his podcast when Rory and Mal left, and then undercompensated Ish despite him being the person that kind of saved his show when all the things were down, all the chips were gone, and he needed someone besides Ice and Savon to create thoughtful dialogue. This was a great episode, and we gotta also look at how the following free episode, Ish wasn't there. Now, Joe did say that Ish called out and he didn't, like it was some type of emergency, but the timing is weird and these guys only work twice a week. Why are they calling out for something they don't have to be at often. See, it's different when you call out from your job that's 5 days a week. You might strategically plan something, but if you have to work 2 days a week, it's highly unlikely that you call out of work, especially after this crazy back and forth on air where Joe calls him out. Let's monitor this, y'all. Let's look how Mark deals with this as well. I think Mark is cunning, man. Yes, he's great on air, but he doesn't give a crap about Ish. He don't care about making him look stupid. He's enjoying this. Within Mark is Joe Budden brain. It's just not as clear. He's got narcissism too. You guys just don't see it. He loves the videos he's seeing on the Young Turks. He loves the video FD Signifier made.
Is a pen that makes a mistake presumes the fault of their mistake to be with someone else, while a real intellectual makes a mistake and then self-evaluates on why that mistake has been made. And I don't watch enough Joe Budden podcasts to say this is the case with Ish, but I kind of perceive that to be the case.
It makes him look dominant, and Mark is likely going to run for office or make a return to broadcast television. And if he does do that, it will be because of his re-entry into the pop culture conversation as a result of his presence on the Joe Budden podcast. Well, guys, make sure you subscribe. Please subscribe. I'm almost at 30,000 subs. I know a lot of people like to say, Danny, you just have 30,000 or 29,000, 28,000 subs. You're done. You don't matter. Well, to that I say, I'm the little channel who could. I know a lot of you folks are bitter. You're mad. You're upset. That's only a small subset, though. A lot of people support me. These are the old men that be on Twitter trying to at me, talking about, oh, all you do is talk about Joe Budden. Well, yes, I do, and I'm not going to stop. All right, everybody, tap in with me on Patreon as well to stop. I just put a conversation I had with Mark Lamont Hill about Ish and the disrespect. I think it was a great conversation, so check it out, and peace.